Immigration has fully become the crisis that defines Biden's time in office. Well, that and inflation, but that's for another video. So according to the latest Gallup survey, immigration is one of the most important issues in the United States right now, with 28% of Americans naming immigration as the top problem in our country. An 8-point jump from January when immigration came in just behind the 21% who said government. Former President Donald Trump and Biden held dueling visits to the border in Texas just a few days ago. In his speech, Trump blamed Biden's border invasion for an illegal migrant murdering Georgia jogger Laken Riley and vows the greatest deportation operation in history if he wins in 2024. And it looks like House Speaker Mike Johnson is fully behind Trump as he stands by his demand that foreign aid issues be addressed only after action is taken on the U.S. border crisis. In Johnson's words, we must secure our border and fund our government before securing another country's border or funding another country's priorities. The jogger who was murdered, Laken Riley, she was a nursing student in Georgia, and Representative Barry Loudermilk led the Georgia Republican congressional delegation in writing a letter to President Biden. The Georgia Republicans just blasted the president for his border policies and his reversal of those from the Trump administration, saying his actions have had devastating consequences and demands immediate action. Another poll says that 8 in 10 swing state voters think Biden, at 81 years old, is too old to run again, and 62% of voters blame him for the border crisis. So yeah, it's about time we investigate what's really happening at the border. It's another deep dive video for you guys, so just stay right there. Here's a preview of Trump and Biden holding their competing events at the Texas border, kind of like a long distance presidential debate. Check this out.
The president and his predecessor duking it out over border policy Thursday from 2 different spots in Texas along the Rio Grande.
This is a Joe Biden invasion.
In Eagle Pass, Donald Trump slammed President Biden for rolling back his executive orders, noting that illegal crossings hit a record last year.
So we had remain in Mexico. Remember that? You can't come into our country. We had no more catch and release. Our catch and release was we released them in Mexico.
We need to act. It's time for the speakers and some of my Republican friends in Congress who are blocking this bill to show a little spine.
In Brownsville, Mr. Biden accused Trump of sinking a tough new bipartisan deal that the White House hammered out with senators last month.
Here's what I would say to Mr. Trump. Instead of playing politics with this issue, instead of telling members of Congress to block this legislation, join me, or I'll join you in telling the Congress to pass this bipartisan border security bill. We can do it together.
Immigration has emerged as a major campaign issue. 6 in 10 Americans say illegal immigration is a very serious problem. Trump has promised to carry out mass deportations if he's elected.
Well, absolutely. And you have no choice because this is not sustainable. The cities are going bad.
Now, I've told you guys stories about my uncle, right? Well, my uncle said that he's just totally sick of America Last Lawmakers, period. And I think I know what he means here with that Senate package passing $95 billion worth of foreign aid to Ukraine and other countries, meanwhile, doing nothing for our border. You know what I mean, right, guys? Some of our Social Security fam here on YouTube, they can tell you exactly what's going on. They'll tell you that they're 70 years old, worked a good 50 plus years, and they don't even get a full $2,200 per month from Social Security. For them, this is the most pathetic insult to us Americans. The majority of Americans are catching on too, as the latest Gallup survey found 28% of Americans named immigration as the top problem. That's an 8-point jump from January, when immigration came in just behind the 21% who said government. The economy in general and inflation followed closely behind with 12 and 11% respectively, according to the survey. Topics that fell in single digits included poverty, hunger, homelessness, unifying the country, and race relations racism. This also tops the record from July 2019 when 27% ranked it top issue. The border crisis has reached the point where former President Donald Trump calls it Biden's border invasion, especially with the recent news of the illegal migrant murdering a girl who was just going for a jog in Georgia. Riley was a nursing student at the University of Georgia. Her body was found in a wooded area near Lake Herrick. According to Trump on his Truth Social post, crooked Joe Biden's border invasion is destroying our country and killing our citizens. The horrible murder of 22-year-old Laken Riley at the University of Georgia should never have happened. The monster youngster who took her life illegally entered our country in 2022 and then released again by radical Democrats in New York after injuring a child. Riley was a nursing student at the University of Georgia. Her body was found in a wooded area near Lake Herrick. Meanwhile, Ibarra is not an American citizen but resides near Athens, Georgia. He faces charges of murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, kidnapping, hindering a 911 call, and concealing someone's death. This news just adds to what Trump and Republicans are saying, that with such a large flow of migration over the border, it's impossible to know for sure who they're actually letting into the country to ultimately live here for months and maybe even years on end while they wait asylum proceedings. In response, Trump has promised the largest deportation in U.S. history of illegal immigrants if he becomes president again in 2024. He said that when he's our president, he will immediately seal the border, stop the invasion, and on day one, they will begin the largest deportation operation of illegal criminals in American history. He ended the post with, "May God bless Laken Riley and her family. Our prayers are with you." Meanwhile, Biden is scrambling to address the issue before November. Reports emerge that Biden is considering taking executive action at the border that would create more strict standards for claiming asylum and allowing for expedited deportation process of illegal crossers. Democrats say that this is pretty much what Trump was doing, but then Biden reversed it upon entering office. Kind of surprising that Democrats ratted out President Biden, but I digress. Nevertheless, under Biden, record numbers of migrants have crossed over the southern border. There were a record number of migrant encounters in December when Customs and Border Protection reported a new high of 301,983 crossings in a single month. The number does not even include the gotaways or those who evaded detection by border authorities. To be honest with you guys, things have gotten so out of hand. I heard that some people are saying that all Americans should just stop paying taxes. But what do you guys think? Me? I just want to say, if there were ever a time to tune in and pay attention to what's happening in our country, this would be it. This could very well be the most important presidential election of our lives, and we're going to make sure that we keep an eye out. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and tap that notification bell for more hard-hitting content like this one, guys. But we're not done yet, so don't go away. I just want to take a moment to kind of just thank you guys so much for always watching. Thank you for showing your support, and thank you for always lighting up the like button. You guys are amazing. So over in Congress, we have House Speaker Mike Johnson, who's holding firm to his demand that foreign aid issues be addressed only after action is taken on the U.S. border crisis. This is after the so-called intense meeting at the White House where Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said Johnson was pressured by others in the room, including by Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, to allow immediate House vote on aid for the Ukraine. Still, Johnson's spokesperson confirmed that the Speaker's message for the White House and fellow congressional leaders was straightforward and remains unchanged. And that message is, we must secure our borders and fund our government before securing another country's border or funding another country's priorities. Now, a little bit of context here. So President Biden summoned the top 4 congressional leaders, Johnson, Schumer, McConnell, and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. So all of these people were summoned for a meeting to discuss governmental funding and his request for a supplemental aid package to Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan, and humanitarian aid for Gaza. Schumer told reporters that the meeting on Ukraine, it was one of the most intense that he's ever encountered in his many meetings in the Oval Office. Now, at the same time, Johnson has repeatedly called on Biden to take executive action to close the border amid a record flow of migrants into the U.S. In Congress, a $118 billion package that included $60 billion for Ukraine and a whole host of border security measures was rejected by congressional Republicans earlier this year, many of whom said it did not go far enough in terms of addressing the crisis. Johnson himself said it would be dead on arrival even if it got to the House. That was hours before it failed in the Senate with only 4 Republicans supporting it. So according to Trump, 3 years ago, we had the most secure border in history. And now, this is a Biden invasion over the past 3 years. Trump calls him Crooked Joe because he's crooked. He's a terrible president and the worst president our country has ever had, according to Trump. He also praised Texas Governor Greg Abbott and how he's done an amazing job in a pretty short amount of time with securing the borders in the past few months in Eagle Pass, Texas, deploying razor wire, National Guardsmen, and buoys into the water. The government said that the number of illegal migrants in Eagle Pass has gone down to 6 to 7 daily compared to the thousands streaming in before. Abbott also commended Trump and said that Biden is visiting what he called a sanitized version of the border in Brownsville, Texas, in extraordinary contrast with Trump's visit. Trump said that he spoke to the parents of murdered Georgia jogger Laken Riley and that she was the best nursing student there was, but that Biden would never dare to mention her name. Republican lawmakers from Georgia are also blaming President Joe Biden's border and immigration policies, which they call disastrous, for the murder of 22-year-old Riley at the hands of an illegal migrant. Representative Barry Loudermilk, he led the Georgia Republican congressional delegation in writing a letter to the president, blasting Biden for his border policies and his reversal of those from the Trump administration, saying his actions have led devastating consequences and demands immediate action. Now, as they said in their letter, every parent and every American is extremely shocked and heartbroken to learn of the murder of Laken Hope Riley, and that Biden's inaction to resolve the unprecedented humanitarian and national security crises at the U.S. southern border has directly led to her tragic death. They also added that Biden's disastrous border policies have turned every community into a border community and destroyed countless American families like Laken's, and that he should not wait until your State of the Union address on March 7, 2024 to announce changes to immigration policy, especially as the proliferation of deadly fentanyl, the increased threat of human trafficking by drug cartels, and the impacts that illegal immigration has had on our nation's cities all must be immediately addressed. For these lawmakers, Biden should empower ICE to remove the aliens who have criminal convictions or pending criminal charges, including those who fail to appear for their court date. They then call for justice for Laken, and that starts by securing the border. The sad news definitely matches what polls are saying about Biden and how he's been handling the border crisis. So Biden is facing the blame over the border crisis, and the vast majority are concerned about his age. The Bloomberg News Monitoring Consult poll conducted in mid-February across 7 critical swing states found voters across every demographic, including some of the more reliable Democratic Party constituents, believe the president's just too old. Even among those who said that they plan to vote for Biden, 7 in 10 say he's just too old. Less than half of respondents say that the former President Donald Trump at 77 years old is too old. And polling found Trump leads Biden across all 7 battleground states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. So what do you guys think? If the elections were held today, right now, who would you choose to vote for? Would it be Trump? Would it be Biden? Sound off in the comments down below. Let's remember to keep our comments civil. More to come in our next deep dive video. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.